to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Hold on. Time out. Flag on the flag. Trying to see if there's another one. My God, I didn't notice. Awesome. Thank you.
Not as fast as
When I run, the earth shakes.
All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Stevens, will you please take the roll?
Mrs. Drum,
Here.
Mr. Maines,
Here.
Mrs. Dillard,
Here.
Mrs. McMurray,
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
All present accounted for. We do have a quorum and can continue this meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. All right, at this time, I'll take a motion for approval of the meeting agenda.
All motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thompson. I'll second. Second by Mrs. Dillard. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Dillard,
Yes.
Mrs. Drum,
Yes.
Mr. Maines,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurray.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Agenda is approved. Okay, discussion items. Our first discussion item is superintendent's comments on staffing and finances by Mr. Stevens.
Right. Up here you have the copies in front of you, but we want to kind of go over some staffing numbers in regards to students, class sizes, things like that. So the first one you have, we're going to talk about the high school, and the middle school is similar to this in the high school in a lot of ways. But again, these class sizes do not include special education classes, the resource rooms and things like that. But at the high school right now, you can see we have a third of the classes have 15 or under students in there. Another 31% have 16 to 20 students. And that doesn't, your band obviously is going to have a lot more, some of your choirs are going to have a lot more, but these are just regular classes that have small numbers in there. We also, at the high school and the middle school as well, we have teachers that are filling out their schedule by doing study hall, doing other duties. And at the high school, we already have a study hall, a full-time study hall monitor to provide study hall services for those kids. And we're filling out teacher schedules in order to do that. And again, there's some of that happening at the middle school as well. So I think there's ways, again, to become more efficient and still offer opportunities for kids and not reduce those. If you look at the next slide, the elementary school. These are on the middle column. That's our current class sizes with 8 teachers per grade level. And if you look at the grade, they've had 25 or 20 kids now quite a few years. We went to 17 in a couple of years. They're still under that. Still at 20. Right now, at the over goal. The numbers of students are not at the 200 level anymore. The number of students are around the 160. It seems like that's the number that's coming in right now. Again, birth rates are going down. The number of houses may seem like they're growing, but the number of kids coming into Tipp City schools right now is much slower than it has been in the past for that. So again, we can be efficient, still have reasonable class sizes, and if we want to prioritize, if our budget's worthwhile, that says, hey, we want to prioritize lower class sizes, again, I don't have an issue lowering class size at the K-1, 2 level. And there might be some value in that, then we need to prioritize those things if the finances allow for that. The next thing is kind of going to go over some academics. So the average of the top 2% of districts in the state is 108.8. That's the average. We are, go back FY17, we're about 98, 97, 98. Again, 21 was a little, I don't have 20 on here because that was COVID. And 21, you're kind of just coming out of COVID. So if you look at those, we're kind of right around this 98, 97 number. That puts us roughly about 82nd in the state out of 606 school districts, which isn't bad. But I don't know, it's great. And I think there's potential, more potential to do better with that. We look at the high school PI scores. Or excuse me, we'll start with Broadway. The next slide. Again, they're at 101, the most recent one. 100, 101, 99, kind of around that range. Go to LT Ball. They've been our highest school. They've been up to 103 and 104 actually. And then they've been down the last couple of years with back on a positive trend there. And then you hit the middle school. Again, the last 3 years out of the 4, I'd say 97, 98. And then at the high school, you're around 95, 96. So you're actually kind of seeing elementary and it's slowly going down over time. Again, I think there's room for growth there to engage our students, for them to learn better, learn more, and perform well. And if they perform well, that means there's more opportunities for them to be successful when they leave us. I'll go through our ACT composite scores for the last 5 years. We actually took it during COVID. You can see the trend is for all students is going down. You can look at the ACT score just for juniors who take it, and that's going down as well. The last slide, or not the last slide, the next slide is really, when we talk about comparing ourselves, I think we should compare ourselves against people that really like us. We have about 11% free reduced lunch. These are the districts that are at 100, or excuse me, they're at between 0 and 20% free reduced lunches. 0 on the one side, 20%, close to 20%, 19.9 on the far right side. This is, you see a little red dot, that's Tipp City. And you see the trend line. The trend line is the best fit line. Where's the average, or where should we be at? An estimate of where we should be at. We're below that. Doesn't mean we can't get up there or go even higher. Even you see people with more economic disadvantage scoring higher than us. We have the ability to do better. When you look at the district information and the financials, this is our fund balance since 2019. It was at $15 million. And it's been going down since then. With an estimated base again on the November 2023 forecast of being $8.8 million. We can't continue on this path. At some point, the state's going to say, you're going to have to make some changes that are going to be more drastic, or we make the changes in the corrections now where it doesn't impact kids as much. Dave, you want to go over your
let's see. Can we open that spreadsheet up on the
Yep.
computer here real quick? While he's opening that up, I'm just gonna preface what I'm gonna show here. I have taken the March financial report that was presented at the last meeting, the March regular meeting, and I have taken it one step further. This original report had shown financials as of March 31st. But I realize now that I should have gone further and said, okay, how about the financials if we keep going till the end of the school year? Is there any way to make that just a little bit bigger? Hit F11 for me, if you would. It doesn't like me. Okay, there we go. So this was where I originally stopped. Actual activity, actual activities 331. I'm sorry for everybody that's farther away. This will be put online so that people can see it. But at the end of March, we were showing a positive $2.9 million balance, which is great. I'm sorry, revenues over expenditures. But if we project this out further into the month of June, as of June 30, yes, we have additional revenues that we've received in taxes. Yes, we have additional revenues that we have in interest. I have also added potential interest revenue earnings I added an additional $180,000 in interest earnings just to show for what could happen for April, May, and June. So our revenues are doing better than what we originally anticipated from the November forecast. However, our expenditures, when it comes to payroll and benefits, our payroll and benefits have been trending right where they should be. And so I'm assuming that for March, April, May, and June, those expenditures are going to remain the same. So this additional, we still have another $5.1 million in payroll. We have another $1.7 million in benefits. We're going to spend that. We're going to come close to 100% of what was on the forecast for those numbers. Now, when it comes to purchase services, supplies and materials, capital outlay, those have been fluctuating lower. But in the end, if everything on the forecast was spent, I still show a negative $3.2 million in expenditures over revenues. If we save $1 million in expenses, let's just say we don't spend $1 million, we're still $2.2 million of expenditures over revenues. Once we finish this year, we will have deficit spent again. And that is why Mr. Moran has been reviewing what we can try to do to help stave off this deficit spending. We're not going to completely eliminate it. We still have other things that we need to do for that, but we're trying to take care of those as we can right now. Are there any questions from board members that we can answer for you at this time? For my information here or for anything that Mr. Moran has presented?
I have a question.
Yes,
so
Cindy.
The state formula for us per student,
Mm-hmm.
so will that stay the same for next year or will it possibly go down?
Because of the tax valuation increase that we saw in Tipp City for the 2023 tax year, we went up. When the state views the community as being more valuable, our state share index goes down, meaning they're gonna expect us to cover more than what the state's covering. Now, I will say, the whole state has seen a tax increase in the valuation. Ours in Miami County was done in 2023's tax year, so they did that in 2023. They start charging it in calendar year 24. Montgomery County, other counties around us, they're seeing this huge increase that's going to come on for tax year 24. They're not ready for that. They haven't seen these collections yet. So they're going to see some sticker shock, like we saw sticker shock last year. But with the valuation going up, it changes the state's formula. Overall, the word is, if you went up, you're going to see less money from the state.
Okay.
Now, is it going to be a dollar for dollar? No, but they're still going to expect us to cover more because of the tax valuation.
So basically, if our property values go up, the state's going to give us less money because we're getting more money from property taxes.
Based on the formula, yes, the number could go down. Now, if every single taxing district in the state went up the same amount, probably wouldn't change very much, but we do have people that are fluctuating more and less. So we'll just have to wait and see how the numbers roll out when they start doing the funding formula in. So they are going to provide so they took 6 years to pay the increase in the change in the funding formula. So they went to this Fair School Funding Plan, and they said, we're gonna take 6 years to fully phase it in. So what is that, 16.6%? So the first year they gave us 16.6% more than what we received in the previous year, because they only funded 1/6 of the plan. Year 2, they funded 32.66 or whatever that math is. In year 3, we're now in year 3, they're at 50%. Year 4, they're gonna give us a little more. So the funding formula is gonna go up some on what they give us, but we'll just have to see how that net change comes in to play when they look at our state share index versus what they're supposed to give us. So again, we're still waiting, we're still relying on a formula at the state level to see how much they're gonna provide to us.
And that could change next year too.
Yeah. I just received word from the Exceptional Children's Coordinator. We do have some families moving in with some children that are on the autistic scale. They're going to be higher cost children. We do have the opportunity to request additional funding from the state. That's called, it used to be called catastrophic. They've just changed the name this year because they like to change the names. I cannot think of no, it's not excess cost. They've changed it to something else, threshold. They called it a threshold cost. So basically, for a special needs student, depending on their disability type, you get so much funding for it. At the end of the year, if you've spent more based on the child's needs to their IEP, if you spent more than that, you can submit it to the state and they'll refund you some more money, but it's certainly not dollar for dollar. So we're going to most likely see some special ed expenses increase for next year based on the incoming enrollment that we're expecting for special needs students. Again, I think last year's reimbursement percentage was 42%. For the money that you spent on those special needs students, they provided 42% rebate. That I don't know if this year's numbers have been finalized yet. I did just submit those numbers on April 30th. So, and what we submitted for reimbursement was not as high as last year's reimbursement. So I believe I have a note in here in the March forecast that said last year's catastrophic reimbursement was $185,000. I'm not expecting $185,000 reimbursement this year. So we will be short in that reimbursement from the state from the 5-year forecast. So there will be a little, it's not going to be a huge difference. Interest earnings will make up for that, but it's going to be down. So,
question.
Yes, sir.
Dave, as the financial expert, who's put these numbers together, in your estimation, correct me if I'm wrong, there's only so much that we can control in terms of money coming in, correct?
Correct.
What are the variables that we can control?
That we can control?
That we can control. What are the things that we can control? Just say it out loud.
For taxes, the way we can control taxes is by putting on levies.
Right.
My recommendation is not to go for new money. We've recently done the bond issue for a new building, but I believe that through proper financial practice, we can make our money last longer to where we do not have to go for new money for operating with the community.
Right, and just to point that out, those are two distinct things, correct?
Yes, a bond levy is separate. A bond issue for a building is separate funding from an operating money for general fund.
Right.
For salaries, supplies, they have nothing to do with each other.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Based on what we've read, this past levy cycle, renewal levies failed more than they have in the past, and new money failed significantly more. I don't believe my personal opinion, going out for a new levy is not a good idea.
Right.
If we were to submit a 5-year forecast to the state that shows a negative fund balance within 3 years of the current fiscal year, that's when you get placed on a list. You have fiscal caution and fiscal watch. I can't remember which one is which. One of them is, we see that you're having problems, but there's still time to fix it. And then if you have it to where your current year or the next year is going to be in the hole, that's where you could have state oversight, where the state will come in and then take over as your financial approver, where, hey, I want to buy a pencil, yes or no? The state says yes or no. So I believe there are 3 districts in the state currently in that situation, but it's not a good place to be in.
Right.
And so we're trying to eliminate negative cash balances on the 5-year forecast.
Yeah.
The other item that we have some control on is under other operating revenue. So restricted grants and aid, that comes, and unrestricted grants and aid, that is from the state. That's our foundation money. That is our homestead and rollback money. Now, just a word on homestead and rollback. Homestead and rollback was what occurred when the state tried changing taxing formulas years ago. And they basically said, hey, we're gonna change the floor, we're gonna make it so instead of levies growing in value as communities and their tax values grow and you can collect more, we're gonna have these aggregate rates that say, hey, you originally passed a tax levy to collect this much money, you really can't go past that, except you can only collect new money on new construction. You know, the pie does not get much bigger because as the tax valuation of the community goes up, the aggregate values, the millages go back down to make it so that you're not collecting more than what was originally voted in, except for new construction, things like that. Where was I going with that?
Well, let me pause you there for just a second.
Yeah.
It would seem like with incoming monies, there is only so much that we can control, correct?
We can control pay-to-play fees.
With expenditures, my point, what I'm getting at, expenditures is where we can control things
Yes.
most, correct?
Yes.
And so of expenditures that we have, when we're looking at how we deal with this financial situation, of those expenditures, what makes up the largest part that we can control?
Salaries and benefits.
Okay.
Salaries and benefits across the board for almost all school districts in Ohio usually fall between 75 to 80% of operating expense costs.
And is that accurate of our district?
It is. It has been. We've been trending higher, around 80%. The $1 million transfer out into the health insurance fund kind of helped lower that percentage this year, but that was a one-time thing that we're not going to see anymore. And so we'll be going back to that 80% trend.
Okay.
So yeah, salaries and benefits we can control. What purchase services we go out to purchase we can control. But the biggest expense of all of that is salaries and benefits.
And do you believe beyond that we're stewarding our resources pretty well and efficiently, or is there other room to clean up some leaks?
Well, Mr. Moran and I spoke about supplies. Supplies expenses are something that we can have a direct control over. We'd like to try to reduce supply expenses at the building level by 5% if we can. That's another thing that we've thought that we could do. You know, with the closure of Nevin Coppic, there are some savings that we can receive in utilities and energy costs with the closure of not having that building open anymore. That will save some of our electricity expenses and our gas expenses. There are some financial savings there that are not salary and benefit related. But until the building comes down completely, we will not see, I mean, that building will still have costs to the district. So, I mean, we can turn the heat down, we can turn the air down, you know. Okay, you're right.
No air.
No air. We can stop blowing the fans around, but it's only gonna, it's not gonna go off the grid until it's been demolished.
One last question. When did your tenure start back there? I know you served in Tipp prior.
So I started in August of 2015 and served 6 years.
Okay. And
then I was gone for 2 years.
And you just started back again?
And I started back up. So
was that last year?
That was August of 23.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So right before the new board members came on.
And Mr. Moran, you were sometime earlier last year, correct?
April.
Okay.
Started officially.
And so these issues that we're looking at predate your tenures here, correct?
You know, I'm not going to say that I wasn't part of this with the expenses, because these 5-year forecasts, I mean, they've been happening, and if you go back, you will see deficit spending for more than just the time I was gone.
Sure.
So yes, we have seen expenditures increase, but can anyone could anyone have predicted COVID and then how everything just kind of dropped? And then the huge increase that we've seen in inflation with costs going up. I mean, costs are seeing, 4% increases, 5% increases, while revenues are remaining relatively flat. Yeah. The increase in property tax valuation that we saw, that I was very surprised to see that, and my first call was to the county auditor. I said, why did it go up so much? I said, we just went through a tax valuation increase where the community saw more than 20% increases in tax valuations. Why did we see it go up another 5%? And she said there was no increase to the taxpayers. That was new construction in the community. So I was a little relieved to hear that, because that meant that it was because of new builds, not because they increased the valuation of everybody's homes here. Okay. So.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
I have
Yes.
questions. So on this form, there's a pretty, unless my glasses are really dirty, which don't, I just clean them just to make sure. 2023, 12.9% in the balance in the general fund. 2024, 8.8. That is drastic compared to the previous decline. Is there something very specific that
I'm not quite sure what was that, Mr. Maines?
Not percent, she meant millions.
Sorry, millions.
Right,
Sorry,
right.
yes.
Was it 12 down to 8
Yeah.
something? Definitely, we had that $1 million transfer out to help the health insurance issue, but we just see.
I'm sorry. What? I don't understand.
So we were self-insured, health
Okay.
insurance wise, meaning that it was just Tipp City taking care of Tipp City health insurance.
Okay.
Our premiums were going to pay the claims directly.
Okay.
The plan, we did not fund the plan appropriately, where we did not see increases in health insurance for 3 or 4 years. Our health insurance costs stayed the same, but the health insurance premium cost stayed the same, while health insurance costs saw an increase.
Okay.
To the point where the self-insured plan was having losses. We had spent more than what had been brought in through premiums. The district, when we first took on that plan, we changed in 2018 or 2019, I can't remember when we did it. But when we did that, the board was told if we were to experience losses, the general fund would have to cover those losses. Before I came back, those losses were being realized, and the administration made the decision to go back into a pooled plan with the Southwestern Ohio EPC. So now we're back into a plan with over 100 school districts, and the costs in that plan are shared between 100 school districts.
Okay.
So if one school district has a very bad year, the other school districts are there to try to help offset those. So there are some schools that have large losses, and there are some schools that have, their premiums covered their expenses. So the money that they've paid in that goes over that goes to help the other school districts. Back in 2018, we were faced with a 26% health insurance cost increase through the EPC, and we made the decision to try to go on our own. Unfortunately, it was not managed as well as it could have been, and instead of seeing increases in the premium costs from year to year, we stayed the same. And so while the insurance costs went up, our premium collections did not.
Do you have data that shows where we are with those premium costs? I mean, just in comparison to other districts?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't have anything specific. I'm sure that there's things out there that can show that. I can tell you that one of the differences that I liked was when in the self-insured plan, where we went out on our own, you had a stop loss amount of $100,000. So any claim that went over $100,000, that was it. You had some insurance that would pay claims that were over $100,000. Well, at the EPC, their stop loss cost was $600,000. So they were willing to pay $600,000 before they had insurance to cover anything over that. We tried it, it didn't work. Now we're back to the EPC. It does make things a lot easier. We pay our claims, we pay our premiums, and we're done. Every year they'll tell us what our premium increase is based on the activity of all of the districts that are currently in the plan. The EPC in recent years has started issuing 3 different tiers of increases based on how you participated in the plan. If you went over 100% of your premium costs and you were expensive, you're gonna see the higher increase in your rates. If you were middle of the road, you're gonna see the middle increase, and then if you did really well, you'll probably see the lowest increase. We're not seeing 26% increase. That was a very weird fluke. I'm not quite sure what happened at the EPC to cause that, but I know that they're trying not to have that happen again. If you go back even further, before 2015, there were some years where they had 0% increases in the premiums, and that could have been a part of it. And then suddenly, insurance costs just exploded nationwide, worldwide, and they got hit with a 26% increase. That's what they had to increase their rates by to remain solvent with the costs that they were seeing. But what happened was, our self-insured fund, which is Fund 24, was in the hole. And we had to transfer money over to cover that loss out of the general fund. And so we stopped that plan September 30th of 2023. So we're no longer collecting premiums for the self-insurance fund. We're now collecting premiums to pay the Southwestern Ohio EPC for our portion of our premiums. However, we're still seeing some claims trickle in every day, and we have a 12-month look-back period. So people can file claims that occurred before September 30th, 2023. They can file those claims and we can still be charged for them. So every Wednesday, I will get a notification from UMR that says you had $100 in claims go out last week, or $2,000 in claims go out last week. Opposite though, we're still seeing where we had pharmacy rebates come back to us. I'll get a check for $20,000 for pharmacy rebates for the prescriptions that we had back when we were using the plan. Under the Southwestern Ohio EPC, those rebates go back to the Southwestern Ohio EPC. They don't come directly to us. So, but that's why we have that $1 million one-time charge to cover those losses.
And on a side note, I believe that we had to do that more than once to fix it.
There were some additional advances, much smaller in dollar amount that occurred before I came back, but all of that is tracked through the financial statements. Everything is in Fund 24, all of the activity for the self-insurance fund.
Did you have more?
No.
Okay. Nick, did you have anything you want to ask?
No, I had the same question that Andy did.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, I do have a question. So if we continued with the current path that we have right now with everything that we're currently doing, what would that look like in 5 years, possibly, where we are now?
Well, the forecast that we presented in November showed that by the end of 2027, I believe it was a negative $8 million balance.
Yeah.
That's where we were headed.
Okay.
We are still going to see increases in costs. I know that we're going to have negotiations with the teachers union coming up to discuss payroll increases, a cost of living adjustment. Those are called COLAs, and we have those. We do have step schedules, salary schedules, where there are positions that will, based on their tenure here and the length of time they've worked, they will see automatic increases. Those are built into the forecast as well. Now, what the COLA is, we don't have anything at this time because we haven't gone into negotiations. But those things are still up in the air that could affect the forecast. Just a side note, the forecast for May is going to have to be approved before I believe we are done negotiating for the next contract. And so that's going to be up in the air as well. Historically, I have included 2% increases in the forecast for cost of living adjustments. Originally, I had thought that you go with 0 because you don't know. For the years you don't know. If that's an unknown, you put it at 0. But that's not very realistic.
Yeah.
So I tried to be realistic, and I've got at least 2 across the board so that we can see that. Because the step increases, those are in there as well. So those increases are in there as well. But I can say the higher the COLA, the higher the cost of living adjustment that's provided, the more salary benefit, the more salary costs, and offsetting benefit costs because of the retirements, those will go up.
Okay.
So, but that is an unknown at this time.
Right.
So
But they're inevitable, like they're not going to change. Like retirements are going to happen, the cost of living is going to continue to adjust, a percentage of raise is going to continue, a step schedule is going to continue for everybody. Like those things are just going to continue regardless, correct?
well, you know, there's been times, and Tipp had this happen to them years ago, where there was 0% increases and the steps were frozen.
Okay.
And that was not just Tipp, that was in numerous districts.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening when I came back, the teachers had formed the union in 2015, 2014, I think, this 2015 school year, the teachers had formed the union. They were in negotiations, and part of those negotiations were to return the frozen steps back over a period of time. And that was what we were seeing throughout the state of Ohio, those frozen. Does that mean that it'll never happen again? No. But we haven't negotiated, we've done nothing. I'm going to continue to show step increases. I'm going to continue to show the COLAs in there for right now, unless something else happens. So the November forecast should know all of that information and will be, depending on how many years out for whatever contract, if it's a 3-year contract with the union, then we'll know 3
Yeah,
years
that'll
of
be built in.
increases.
Okay, I just wanted to show a trend that will continue.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have another question. So salaries, benefits, as someone who pays for private insurance, I'm just curious, is there a way to recoup some of that loss through an increase in the premiums, or is that all set through EPC?
We have, my payroll manager, Brittany McLean, did look into that to see if there was a way to recoup some of those costs, and it is not legal to do that.
Okay. Good
So,
to know.
yep, we're done. The district is covering for that. Now that doesn't mean that we can't make changes to the insurance plans to try to save costs for future years. But that money that went into Fund 24, so just an FYI, for the district, originally we thought, hey, let's advance the money from the general fund to Fund 24, see what we can come up with plans to try to recoup some of that money, and then try to pay back the general fund. I don't believe we're going to be able to repay back the general fund. I believe we're going to have to convert that advance to an official fund transfer out, and that will be a board resolution to change that advance to a fund transfer. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not, like I said, we're still receiving some funding back. That doesn't, and when we get to September 30th of 2024, I believe we'll wait a couple months just to make sure that activity is completely done. Any funding left over in Fund 24, I would recommend that we do follow the procedures to return that money back to the general fund. That could, because it's not the general fund, it is a special revenue fund paying back the general fund. I believe that takes an act of the courts to authorize us to say that the reason we were collecting this money in a different fund is done. It's no longer necessary. Return it to the general fund. But that we'll have to follow the steps on that legally, because that will be audited by the Auditor of State's office. We need to make sure we're doing everything through ORC when and if we can put that money back in the general fund.
I have a couple of questions regarding the class sizes.
I'm gonna step back.
It's kind of dual.
Okay.
It's a dual question. Currently, I know that we don't have open enrollment for general. We do offer, that's been negotiated, I believe through the negotiation, that the staff is allowed
Yes.
to bring their students. Approximately how many students currently attend Tipp City Schools now, or looking ahead to next year, that are from other school districts that attend?
Following the teaching staff member.
Yes,
25, I believe.
How many was that?
25.
25.
25. You don't have a grade breakdown.
I do, that's not in front of me.
Okay,
Yeah, we do have those numbers though.
Okay.
and, sorry, I'm, again, asking questions. So if they come from a neighboring district,
Mhm.
does the money from that district come with them here to cover their costs?
They are funded like a Tip City resident. So if we're receiving $2,500 for a Tip City resident student, we're receiving $2,500 for a student following a teaching staff member. They are funded the same.
So if hypothetically, they would receive more money in their home district, that additional money does not come with them.
I don't believe there is any money at the home district because the student is being reported as a Tip City student.
Oh,
Got it.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now, in the past, open enrollment was funded differently, and the dollar amount was $6,000, and an open enrolled student, when they came in, it didn't matter where they came from or how much the district had or what the valuation was worth, that student brought $6,000 with them. And if a student left, they took $6,000 with them.
Mhm.
So if Tip City was only receiving $2,500 because they lived here and then they left us, we lost money on that student going out. They don't do that. They don't do it that way anymore. We used to report charges for open enrolled students going out, and we don't do that anymore. They completely wiped that off of the foundation formula and said students are funded where they live. I mean, where they're attending, that's where they get the funding goes.
Sorry, just
Yeah, keep going.
questions. And that doesn't have anything to do with the Ohio Choice voucher system.
That is not.
That's completely separate.
That is a separate program, yes, ma'am.
Okay, just want to confirm that. So, and just hypothetical. So if a Tip City student wanted to attend Chaminade Julian High School, then they can take their money, is that correct?
That is correct.
From Tip City and use it to pay their
We are not,
tuition.
we are not funded for that. We
Okay.
would just not receive the funding for that student,
Okay,
pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an EMIS coordinator, but I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Yeah.
and if a student, sorry, I'm just gathering all information. If a student were, if this was an option for, if they were enrolled, if there was tuition, what would the cost be?
If a student was enrolled through tuition,
So hypothetically, if that was, somebody from a neighboring district,
Correct.
staff brought their child from a neighboring district,
if,
What would
if
that be?
staff brought the child,
yeah,
it's about $2,500.
25.
Because they're valued the same. Now, tuition is different than open enrollment. Tuition is where the state sets a dollar amount that a school district can charge a family for a student from anywhere in the state to come and attend the school. Now, they would have to pay the tuition rate, which again is set by the state. It is not open enrollment. If we had contiguous open enrollment, then a student that lives in the next district over wouldn't even have to worry about paying tuition. But we don't have open enrollment. We don't have open enrollment in. And in fact, I think we even changed our policy to where we don't accept
Correct.
tuition students. But Cindy, what did you say? You had the
I
dollar amount?
actually was looking at that earlier today, so the tuition amount for Tip is $83.98 per student.
So we would have the family provide the
That's
district,
in-state,
and that you said $83.98?
$83.98.
And we have had,
Out-of-state is higher, it's $11,360.
yeah, and they look at that based on the taxes that
Right.
the community pays
Mhm.
to the school district and what the foundation or the state pays in. And we have had tuition students previously, very, very, very small handful, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. Tuition students are approved by the board before they can attend the district, but we have none at this moment that I'm aware of.
Anyone else have questions? Cindy, did you have anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you guys very much for all the numbers and all the information. We very much appreciate it. Okay, next, our discussion item is curriculum discussion on Tipp Academy. Superintendent comments on, will be in place on this.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Sorry, Dawn, I forgot it was you too.
The table, so it's more discussion.
Okay.
Mrs. Vlahos and I wanted to discuss with the school board. We're really excited to share more about our pre-apprenticeship program and our Tipp City Learning Academy, which we have developed this year after several months of meeting together in committee. Our pre-apprenticeship program is actually not new. It was created 3 years ago by Steve Vierhoff, our former assistant superintendent, who passed it on to me. I still have, this is Steve's blue folder. Okay, so this is my pre-apprenticeship folder from Steve. So he got the program underway. It had been around in the state of Ohio for some time, if you've never heard of it. The pre-apprenticeship program gives students an opportunity to have job placement, work-based learning, or job shadowing experiences beyond the classroom, which we want for all of our students. So in the last couple of years, we've continually tried to expand our program and availability and just knowledge for all of our students to take part in it. Mr. Moran came in several months ago and really wanted to reboot something that we had and make it more available for all of our students, including students who will be in our new Tipp City Learning Academy, which Mrs. Vlahos will share more about. But if you don't know how it works, essentially a pre-apprenticeship program, it's a partnership between 3 entities. You have your high school, your post-secondary, so students can go into an apprenticeship at a post-secondary institution in different career clusters. And then the third part, of course, is the employer. So our current pre-apprenticeship operating plan, which has been approved by the state of Ohio, is through Sinclair. We have 5 career clusters right now: architecture and construction, IT, manufacturing, law enforcement and public safety, and my 5th one. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. It's my 5th one. Oh, I always forget my 5th one.
Hospitality.
Hospitality. Thank you so much. Okay, those are our 5 career clusters. We've had 1 student successfully complete our pre-apprenticeship a couple of years ago at Staub Manufacturing. So we've had 1 student who's completed it. We got to go down and take a tour at the time, and he did a great job. And then a couple of more students who are undergoing the pre-apprenticeship right now. So we have had students take part, but once again, we're trying to expand. So we've submitted a new operating plan. The state is undergoing some changes with the pre-apprenticeship, but we've submitted an operating plan with Edison State. Edison State has a couple of other career clusters that are available, including healthcare, which is one that we want to do, and agriculture. So we'll be expanding with Edison with those career clusters, and we added a few more in partnership with Sinclair, including finance, business administration, and government and public service. So we're adding to our current Sinclair plan and then developing a partnership with Edison as well. So that's how it works at the state level. Mrs. Vlahos will share more about our pre-apprenticeship options, what we have planned for next year, and our Tipp Learning Academy.
So I'm told that you may have this chart in front of you, the document.
You guys have a hand up? Yeah.
So if you can see, we've kind of divided the 2 pathways up into the 2 different charts, and really it talks about the way the students will divide their day and the academic courses that they would take, and then what their options for how they would earn the credit are. So in the pre-apprenticeship pathway on the left, the first block there, you can see that students may select to take their typical AP advanced level courses or CCP courses, whichever of those courses apply to them in their pathway. And they would be able to come out for half-day increments in order to attend their workplace and earn the credit there. We've divided the credits up into 1 credit, half credit, and 2 credits based on the number of hours they complete. And I've been working with Dawn this year just to kind of wrap those students up, the ones that are currently enrolled in these pre-apprenticeship, the pathway already, to just discuss how many credits they'll be able to earn. And then obviously their purpose there is to gain experience in their chosen career field and make connections within the community in their current their current chosen career field to see if they like it, really, to get that experience in that pathway. So on the other page, the third page, is the Academy chart, which offers a different learning environment for students who are also interested in getting experience in their chosen career field and making those same career connections or professional connections. We've offered those students a half day on our Apex online courses, and also provided them other curricular options such as the U Science Interest and Aptitude Survey and the Work Keys Assessment. We've also indicated that there may need to be some counseling with Catalyst just to get at that whole child education that we know is so important, and really their options for earning the credit are the same. So you can see, kind of compare the two charts on either of the two pages.
We've also added for Tipp Academy students, they'll also be completing the Work Keys curriculum, which is so valuable. Did you say?
No, it's right there.
So it's through ACT. The Work Keys curriculum includes graphic literacy, applied mathematics, and workplace documents. So teaching students how to create a resume, build a portfolio for learning as well is through that program. So that would be one of their curricular requirements if they apply and get into the academy. So it is through an application. Students do need to meet requirements to get into the Tipp Academy. Those who just need an alternative learning environment. If you've ever heard of a school within a school, this is what the Tipp Academy would make available to students in Tipp City to give them other avenues to complete their learning and to have on-the-job experience.
On the last page, we've got that sample schedule laid out where students might be attending either the morning session or the PM session. And I think the important part is that flex period, because we've kind of acknowledged that there may not be enough time in the half day for some of those extracurricular pieces that we talked about for the Tipp Learning Academy. So just adding kind of a bonus period there with your half day.
We do also plan to have a pre-apprenticeship coordinator who will be checking in with students and establishing partnerships in the community and meeting with the employers as well. Employers do have a stake in this. They're obviously going to be mentoring our young people and completing grade evaluations as part of their bi-monthly progress and end of quarter progress as well. So that's the part we're really working on right now is employer partnerships. We have new career coordinators at our Miami County ESC who are helping us and build these partnerships with the local community and down in Montgomery County.
I have a couple of questions, sorry.
Yes, Mrs. McMurray.
What will happen with the applied, because the applied mathematics isn't recognized for assessment, will that impact the students in the program?
No, do you mean recognized as a state assessment? No, yes, they will still need to pass, great question. The three elements of graduation are course completion, competency, and demonstrating readiness through the SEALs. The students in Tipp Academy will still need to take their end of course assessments. So Algebra 1, Geometry, American History, American Government, ELA 2, all of biology, all of our end of course assessments will still need to be completed and taken by our students in Tipp Academy. Pre-apprenticeship is on the alt pathway though, so if a student does not demonstrate readiness through ELA 2 or Algebra 1, which is required for graduation, the pre-apprenticeship does count as another avenue where students can still graduate with a completed pre-apprenticeship.
Okay.
Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
I just didn't know if they had done anything with the applied mathematics or if they.
No.
pulled
Work Keys is considered a
Right.
secondary,
Correct.
but not a foundational.
Okay. Sorry, I apologize, one more. Pre-apprenticeship coordinator, is that someone that's currently employed here in the district that's been identified, or will that be something that's posted, or is that in addition onto a position? Or are you able to speak of?
We are a current employee.
Okay.
So we have an employee who has been doing a phenomenal job of running much of our Apex program.
Okay.
She has expressed interest and helped to build this program as well.
Okay.
So current employee.
I have a couple questions too.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
No,
Ray.
it's-
You go ahead, Ray.
yeah.
I was just
We'll
gonna
just go
ask,
down.
is this in any way coordinated with the Miami Valley Career Technical Center?
We know this is separate from the MVCTC, so we still have obviously many of our students who go to MVCTC, they're actually completing their own pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships in that avenue. This is actually through Tipp High School, so we're running our own pre-apprenticeship program separate from the CTC. So students who don't want to go to the CTC, who want to stay at our high school, this would be an opportunity for students who want to stay. The students who go to MVCTC or UVCC still have this opportunity as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I had a question about the work keys. Can you tell me what they were again? So you said
There are three major parts of the curriculum.
okay,
Graphic literacy,
okay,
applied mathematics,
okay,
and workplace documents.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, so Rick asked one of my questions. I was curious how this aligns with the CTCs. Are the students paid in their apprenticeship?
They can be. So the students that we've had, I know our first student who went down to the manufacturing plant, he was paid. That is up to the employer. So I always say, students who are participating in job shadowing, let's say healthcare, if a student is working at a hospital, that's going to be job shadowing, probably unpaid. So it's really important that our employers understand, like, what does the student want? What are we offering? Is it more of a job shadowing experience with a surgeon, or are we doing more work-based learning? Most of the time in that avenue, the employer chooses to pay. So they get a choice.
And which businesses in Tipp have you approached already?
We'll talk more about it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Currently, we've got, we just took a tour of Repicor, and that was one of the main businesses that we were kind of proud of adding as a potential business partner. We've obviously already spoken with the Tipp PD and places like that. We've had 2 students that are in the hospitality field right now. Well, sorry, 1 student in the hospitality field, 1 student in manufacturing, and the hospitality student is in a local business, Jim's Donuts, I believe, and then the manufacturing student is a
Trucking company, yes.
J&T trucking company, I believe, J and something.
That is what we're working to
Yes.
build. So it really
We have
is
a
our,
list of them in a spreadsheet.
our
We're looking
employer
for students to fill it.
partnerships. Yeah.
Well, it could really blossom into a huge community partnership.
Yes.
Because we want our students to stay in the community.
Yes.
And to become adults and
Yes.
productive business owners. So the more businesses that we approach
Yep.
and ask, I think businesses would be very interested
Yes.
in these possible apprenticeships too.
As I've spoken with students, just kind of shopping it around the high school a little bit, these are some students who may already have a job or who are interested in working in particular places. And it's always been, tell me where you want to go, and I'll make the phone call.
Right.
So that's something that we've kind of already started in the last half of this year.
And a key component of the role of the pre-apprenticeship coordinator, I mean, that's what we need to happen in the next year, is developing those partnerships and building relationships with our local businesses. The Dayton Manufacturing Association reaches out. It's just going out and really explaining what the program is to our employers as well, and what their responsibilities are to the kids.
I have a question, sorry. So the relationship with the post-secondary, and is that then treated similarly to as CCP? So Tipp City would be responsible for paying them?
No. What they need, they sign a signatory agreement and they become a registered apprentice, but they actually get a choice. They can be a registered apprentice sponsored through Sinclair or Edison, or they can opt out. Those thus far have opted in. They're required to sign a signatory form stating that they understand that their program can roll into an apprenticeship. So that's the requirement at the secondary level.
So then that student would be responsible for paying for their classes from Edison or Sinclair?
Correct. If they move, if they move on to the post-secondary cluster in that pathway, yes, then it would work like when a student goes to a college or university.
Okay, so that's just for clarification, for public clarification, that is different than CCP.
Yes, correct.
CCP, the district picks up the cost of the students' tuition to that institution and their books But in this case, it would be the responsibility of the student or potentially the employer. is
Yes.
The hope.
Yes,
Yes.
and employers have been but yes, the
Right.
employer can pick it up. There's also, the student stands a great chance of obviously getting into that post-secondary once the student starts the pre-apprenticeship. But yeah, the tuition would fall on the student
Okay.
and family.
Sorry, one more question. If a student has completed all and passed all of their state competencies through assessment, are they still required to complete the Work Keys program?
In the academy, yes.
Okay.
So if they are in the Tip City Academy, yes, it is part of their curriculum
But
for
then
that.
if not, in that case, then they would just go more to the pre-apprenticeship path.
I think probably the course, the style of courses would
Okay.
become the issue at that
Okay.
point.
Correct.
I mean,
Okay.
if we wanted to allow students who wanted to do the pre-apprenticeship to take in-person classes. That may be a
Yeah.
requirement for some students.
Yeah.
Whether or not they want to take Work Keys, whether or not they, want to do the pre-apprenticeship.
Right.
So,
I just, on a side note, I think this is amazing. I think it's been a long time. I've seen it in so many other districts. And I know that it was a passion project of Steve's before he left, and I had many conversations. I think it's amazing. And when my own son heard of it, he, I think, ran to your office and said, "Where do I sign up?" And I just signed the signatory for Edison.
Yeah,
So,
great.
bravo.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited.
And meeting students where they are and their needs, building community relationships, and increasing opportunities for them to become part of our community and stay here and serve. So, thank you.
Kyle, did you have anything? Because you haven't spoken yet, so just make
No, I'm just taking it all in.
Okay. I just didn't want you to feel like anybody was jumping over.
We're
Okay.
good.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I just have one, how do parents and students come to find out about this? Like, when is this explained? Is it explained like in junior high, or is it explained freshman year?
It's actually lived in our program of studies for 2 years. So it is part of the curriculum and the program of studies available. I think what we need to work on, if you would agree, is marketing and explaining to students during the scheduling process and even earlier. So even talking to them in middle school that this is a possibility that's coming as we're building our program there, our Career Connections program at the middle school level, and then how we roll it out to students. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think that Career Connections class is going to be a huge part of how we recruit students for this particular setup. And, as they find their way to my office or in other avenues throughout the building, I've been recruiting in person as a suggestion for potential pathway for them.
Awesome.
And I think collaborations with our community partnerships with Rotary, with the Chamber, with Tip City Partnership. I think that having those continued conversations so that they understand that this is an additional opportunity. But I do think that it is important to help parents understand that through this, the post-secondary, it is different than CCP, whereas the families would be responsible for that money to pay for that coursework, because of the potential with the apprenticeship. And I also think, definitely having opportunities for those that are providing the apprenticeships to speak with the families directly in some sort of forum, open house, would be very beneficial for all involved. And I agree with you, Cindy. I've said for many years that sweet spot of impacting and influencing starts down in 5th grade. So
Definitely.
I think it probably is just going to take a handful of students to kind of get
Absolutely.
embedded in the program
Yeah.
first, and then, to your point, word spreads best through families and students. And so I think we've been talking about how do we get all of those people in one room for the initial meetings? How do we get parents to meet the employers and have that communication just to ensure success for the student? I think we can set up all the right schedule, but the student will be responsible for attending it.
Correct.
And so how do we ensure that that is going to be, that's the piece that we need to lock down.
Correct.
Yeah, I think, so I have a question. So remember, I'm old, but we used to do, like, is this kind of the school to work program that, okay.
OWE.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay.
wasn't gonna say it, cause it
It-
makes
Oh,
me
But I remember it when I was in
No
school.
way, that was,
So,
it
I was
left,
just
it
curious.
left in 2012.
did it? Okay.
Other people have said that to me.
Okay,
Yes.
because I just remember that, and I just thought that was such a cool program when I was in school. I didn't go that path,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was awesome for the people who did, that they had that opportunity, and I'm really excited that this is coming
We've
back
gotten
to the
some really good
forefront.
feedback from the employers that we've already spoken with. I mean, I have a limited number of students who are doing this
Right.
right now, but I've already spoken with all of the employers and had the feedback about the student and how they're being successful. And, you know, we've used them in various fashions to help with motivation and
Yeah,
things like
for
that.
for
So,
others too. Yeah, that's awesome. Great opportunity.
Yeah.
Great opportunity. Awesome.
Thank you.
Right. Anybody else have questions? Thank you, ladies, so
Thank
much.
you
We
all.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next discussion item is the gifted endorsed instructional coach discussion. There is a description listed. Mr. Moran, I think.
So again, this is something we've talked about, looking to further support our gifted students, but really all students. We want to create, help our staff create more engaging activities in the classroom that support all levels of students. And having a gifted instructional coach to help focus on that, help focus on the students and their goals, but again, all kids. If you can scaffold up, you can scaffold down, and finding ways to help, again, improve the academic success of all our kids.
Okay, anyone have discussion questions on it?
You told me the percentage before, what is the percentage of our identified gifted population?
I think it's about 25%, somewhere around there.
That's very high.
And the intention with this is to hire, one or two.
Intention would be to have one at each building. So we have one, we have, more of a reading coach at the, K-1-2, because with the science of reading and all those things, making sure that's a big piece supporting that. And then the gifted, having an LT ball, middle school and high school.
Is it currently, the last meeting we discussed, there's like 1.5 at the moment, where the proposition is going to 2.
Correct. Changing that to 2 full-time positions get placed in those LT ball in high school. We have an instructional coach at the middle school that could morph into that. Already.
Gotcha.
And that first, the coaches we have currently, one's in with us, Tipp City, one's a purchase service. We're looking to have, again, see who might be interested in this. Do we have the skills and the ability to do those things? And if not, we will to contract elsewhere.
And again, just for clarification, gifted endorsement is a specialized certification.
Yes.
Making it out there.
I'm putting it out
Public
there.
notice.
Public notice.
information.
I started the classes and then dropped.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. All right. Sorry, go back to the agenda. Okay. Next is school calendar discussion. Calendars are attached in the email.
So the last month at the meeting, there was confusion, that confusion was my responsibility. It had stuff in there that wasn't agreed to, and what hadn't been put out before to anybody as well or shared. And again, what we're looking to do is provide some consistency for parents. I think the consistency for parents of the start date, end date was pretty important for everybody, as well as scheduling some professional development, especially at the 6-12 level, after talking with the elementary parents and getting some input. There's probably enough going on right now. We don't need to add another change to it, but really looking at how we do our 6-12 professional development, where it's spread out and we can be more intentional about things. So we changed those dates with the calendar committee, looking at that. And then I'd say the other piece is the Smart Start. So working with the elementaries, the parents really seem to like the Smart Start idea for the K-5, and getting that information for the kids in 1st through 5th, really a couple days, and then the kindergartens, give them an extra day. Obviously, it's a brand new for a lot of parents, bringing their kids in for the first time. Make sure that they're spending some time dedicated to that, plus getting to the diagnostic testing with the KRA, things like that in kindergarten. So give them an extra time versus everybody coming on the 4th day. The new kids, or the kids that have been in school are ready for kindergarten and through 4th grade, they're just going to transition to 1 through 5 and come after 2 days, and the kindergarten would have another day to meet with teachers, and the transition would be smoother, we think.
So, if you guys are okay with that, I'll start. So, I got to go to some of the calendar meetings with some individuals probably in this room. And I found it really interesting that the focus became on what was best for families to make it cohesive for them when planning vacations or figuring things out and stuff like that. And so I really enjoyed hearing that kind of talk as a group. And so if you notice, a lot of the times off, because the teachers wanted to provide professional development days that made sense, that were attached to like some other holiday. So if you look at the calendar itself, you'll see a lot of that where it's like 4-day weekends, because they're trying to provide
one
that.
In October,
Yeah.
Another one in February.
Yeah, trying to provide that for families. So I thought that was awesome to think of that too. But just some of the discussions in general about finals and when things like that happened for the high school and stuff like that, it was very strategic in the planning of this calendar. So I just wanted to give out that information as well, so you guys understood kind of why it was done this way also.
And we're still having some discussion on the calendar piece at mainly in secondary, when you talk about semesters. I agree with we got to be concerned about when kids they come right back from break and then give them exams, semester exams. How much time do they need, or do we shorten it up and make it at, when they leave for Christmas, first semester's over with for everybody. There's no sense in coming back. To come back to classes, finish it up at the semester time. So we're going to have some more of those conversations. I could see it going either way, but I prefer whenever we do exams, we end the semester at that time, not come back for a week or two to catch up.
And just for clarification, I see that the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving is indeed highlighted red as a day off, as I do recognize that there was some concern from community regarding that
errors.
Wednesday. I believe that was a typo.
Still was an error.
It's an error?
It was an error.
It was an error. Thank you for clarification. I do have a question, again, just putting it out there. I see lots of time for those that weren't able to attend the calendar sessions. Lots of time available for professional development for the teachers in grades 6 through 12. What does that professional time look like for the teachers in grades K through 5 if they don't have the 2-hour late start?
They have time built into their day already.
Okay.
Their contractual day is 7.5 hours with 30 minutes of lunch, and then the kids are here 45 minutes or so after they start their day. So there's already time built in before school and during plan times with, I'd say with most grade levels, because specials go at the same time. But at high schools, you don't have like all the ninth grades go to specials. At the elementary schools, you got, half the kids go to a special, so then there's collaboration time that can happen there as well as in the morning. So they have more time available to them than the second grade does.
And these 2-hour late arrival days, are these facilitated by, are they the teacher-based teams, building level teams? Is this vertical alignment between 6-12? Is someone coming in providing outside
All the above.
PD?
Could
Okay.
be. The goal is, and we've talked about this, is getting some more, the district leadership goals, including some teachers from each of the buildings involved in that, to plan and develop those things under the umbrella of the district goals of increasing student engagement and increasing opportunities for kids. What that looks like at an elementary school could be drastically different than where it's looks like at a high school level. But what does that need in having teachers, and that's something that we're discussing to bring part of the district leadership team to help drive those things. And I know that the building principals are going to be a big part of that. But it needs to be, in the past, I'd say the majority of PD was driven top down, and we want that to change where it's more building driven.
So then what would sorry, I'm going with colors, the purple days, where it's a full day of professional development, that then would be, just for clarification, because the grade band is not listed on here, that would be for K through 12.
Correct.
And
We
for
have a
the
couple
full day.
days spread throughout the year to address things that need to be addressed. That we could work in to just enhance. Sometimes you need more time, or it could be some specific training on things. Again, we want it to be more based on building needs or district needs, but I'd like for most of it to be building level needs.
Sorry, I'm a parent who's juggling kids with myself needing to be at work and then home and the late and things like that. So first question is conferences, when those used to be on the calendar, is that something that would be added back potentially? Okay, so
this is just the beginning end dates that we are known that for students to be at school. We'll add parent-teacher conference would get on there, and the quarters would get on there. Other things like that would be added, could be added to the calendar.
Okay. And with all of this, we are meeting our required hour requirements by the state
Correct.
without having to add any like additional time or anything like that. Okay, good.
No.
So it's not your intention to expand the school day?
We're gonna see what transportation is, if there's opportunities to, I'd say maybe at the K-5 level, there might be some opportunities depending on, to make transportation work as smooth as possible. There might be some time, but that hasn't been,
But we're not talking hours, we're talking like minutes.
Yeah.
Okay,
just
wanna be clear.
We don't have to drop off at 3 buildings now, which takes 30 minutes to do that. We can drop off in 20 minutes or less. We were drop off here at LT Ball, we drive to Broadway, drop off, and we come back here and drop off at Nevincott. Now we're just doing from point A to point B. We can become much more efficient and effective with that time. But we're finalizing routes, looking at route numbers, looking at those times to balance out both ways, because if whatever the kids come in, the K5 kids will come in at the same time all the time. So no matter what happens at the high school level, we gotta make sure that if it's the 2 hours late, they got time to go back out and get the high school kid. And I think we have plenty of time to do those things.
That was my concern with how, we know on a traditional 2-hour delay, potentially due to inclement weather, what that looks like, because the elementary is also delayed.
Yep.
I didn't know how that would
still
impact.
happen. That would still happen. It was a 2-hour delay based on weather.
Right.
Same
Yeah,
process.
I'm just talking about during this time. Now we have hypothetically the elementary potentially going ahead of the 6
On
through
the-
12
on the
on
later
those
arrival.
days.
Correct, yes. They will.
And I would be remiss in representing, the working constituents of the community if I didn't ask, is there an opportunity for any of those students to have some sort of enrichment or anything, or come to, I'm just asking, and then that's nothing that, but, you know, on those days where there's sixth grade child still potentially at home alone with, and I know we deal with this with inclement weather situations, but I'm just putting it
This
out
time
there.
there's not
Okay.
there's not that, but it's something that could change depending on what all happens.
I have just a clarification. So the purpose of the 2-hour late start is to provide, planning time for teams.
For
Teams
professional
to work,
development for
right.
staff, it will be team time, it will be other things, but not just.
But it's not any different, it's not any more hours than it was this year with the 1-hour early release, correct? Because, and they have the same equal amount as the K-5, because K-5 has it built in, so they meet once a week.
Well, K-5 actually has more time.
But they're still meeting,
There's still
it's
an
just,
opportunity to do
right.
things, correct.
So these are every other week for 2 hours, so basically an average of 1 hour a week. Okay, so, the other question I have is, Angie said, okay, let's say we had a 2-hour delay for snow. So would this, and it fell on the same day as the 2-hour late arrival, would that be eliminated, or would they have to make up that 2 hours?
They're not gonna come 2 hours later. They're not gonna miss 4 hours of school.
If we had a 2-hour delay, we would address just kids coming later, and if we had to have step canceled because of staff, we wouldn't make it back up.
Yeah, that's what I meant, just, I didn't think that they'd come another 2 hours.
No.
I just meant that, would they have to make that 2-hour planning time up?
No, we wouldn't. I wouldn't schedule another time to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, sorry, I think we, in our educational realms, use verbiage differently. This is not just planning time. This is for, professional development.
Correct.
And this is,
Great
Art-
band collaboration.
grade band collaboration, outside entity,
Yeah.
things like that. Okay. Potential for vertical alignment, 6 through 12, in subject specific. Okay. Does any of, sorry, and this is me being out for a hot minute, does this count toward LPDC hours of professional development, or is this a requirement on top of? Can, if someone came in from the outside, could this count toward?
That would be up to the LPDC
Okay.
committee
Okay.
guidelines and rules. I think
What?
Could it be? Yes. I think it could be.
Okay.
What will it be? Not necessarily.
I'm just saying, to reach, licensure renewal and having to do all of those hours can be expensive for the individual. And I think this would be a great way to help, teachers to, reach those required professional development hours toward licensure renewal. 180 hours is a lot.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to our next item of business, which is executive session.
Do you have a 1 or an A?
I did, but
Hit
now it says
refresh.
something different.
Hit refresh.
Yeah, I was like, that's not right. So, thank you. Technology. Perfect, thank you. So at this time, I would take a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22, G3 and G4. Conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or an imminent, court action. G4, to prepare for negotiations for bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Official action may follow the executive session.
All motion.
All right, moved by Mr. Thompson,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. McMurray. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we will proceed to vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Drone,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Dillard.
Yes.
Motion passes. The time is now 5:26, and we will head to executive session. All right, the time is now 6:14 p.m. There is no action being taken after executive session. All right, at this time, oh wait, no, just kidding. Upcoming meetings. The next regular board meeting of education will occur on May 21st, 2024, here at LT Ball Intermediate School, beginning at 6 p.m. The next work session meeting will occur on June 4th, 2024, at the Board of Education office, beginning at 6 p.m. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Moved by Mrs. Dillard. Seconded by
I'll second.
Mrs. McMurray. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we will proceed to vote on
Dillard.
adjourning the meeting.
Sorry, Dillard,
Yes?
McMurray,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
All right, the time
Mr.
is now,
Thompson left.
and Mr.